Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton, and on this episode, we're going to talk about a few things in the AFC South. One of those few things we're going to talk about is the Jags and the Colts, both 4-1, but which one is the better team? We're going to talk about Tennessee and maybe the need for speed, and we're going to talk about the Houston Texans and their quick turnaround from 0-3 to 2-3. We're going to get into that and more on this episode. But up first, definitely want to touch on something that happened this past weekend. Of course, I didn't give my take on it, and I definitely want to give my take on it. We're going to talk about Coach Gannon out in Arizona. Now, for those that know, the Arizona Cardinals were up 21-6 versus the Tennessee Titans late in that game in the fourth quarter. And Mercado, running back for the Arizona Cardinals, broke out a long run, 72 yards, supposedly a touchdown. But apparently he drops the ball before he gets into the end zone. And the ball goes out the back of the end zone. It's a touchback. And then, of course, the Titans start to their way back into the game, score a touchdown, get a stop, score another touchdown off an incredibly interesting play, and then stop them again, score, kick a field goal, win the game. Meanwhile, on the sideline, Mercado's, of course, being talked to by one of his teammates. Coach Gannon goes over there, Jonathan Gannon. You know, he kind of hits him in his chest and all those different things or whatever. And there were plenty of people that had some thoughts about it. I mean, one of those people was Dez Bryant, who felt that, hey, you know, it's just this, that, it wasn't really a thing or anything like that at all. Of course, Marcus Spears and other former players had a different take on it and looked at it as, okay, you can't really do that because if it was the other way and a player did that to a coach, that player would no longer be on the team. And I completely agree with the actual players that flipped it the other way and said, hey, if a player did this to a coach, then that player would not be on the team anymore, because it's not okay just beat up on your players on the sideline because you're an authority figure. It's almost like when a teacher is in a classroom and the teacher just can do whatever they want because they are an authority figure. No, a teacher cannot do anything they want because they're authority figure. They still have rules to abide by as well. So does Jonathan Gannon. And in that instance, he's lucky that he only got the fine. Could have been worse than that. Could have been more than that as well. Or it could have been a player getting upset and going back at him as well. So a lot of different things could have happened in that entire scenario. The Cardinals went ahead and fined him $100,000 before the league actually stepped in, because I believe if the league stepped in, it would probably been that or worse. So that's what he was fined. He apologized to the players and all those different things as well. We'll see how that situation goes from there. Also, another thing I want to say about that, Mercado, after the game, he could have shrunk off behind, out of the arena and not talk to media, but he was a stand-up guy. He talked to the media right then and there, explained to them, talked to them, took the heat instead of actually running away from the heat as well. So I got to applaud him for that. Just had to get that, off my chest just a little bit to start this episode and just give my take there, since I wasn't able to give my take a little bit earlier in the week. Also, now let's get, also I will say that, hey, it was a frustrating play. It was a total meltdown in some aspects for the Cardinals, but still, you are the coach. You are the authority figure essentially on that sideline. Hey, can't be doing all that. Because like I said, if a player would have done that, it definitely went left for sure. All right, let's get to the Jaguars and Colts. Like I mentioned, I want to talk about the Jaguars and Colts. Both of these teams are 4-1. Now, I will tell you, no one really expected both of these teams to start the season 4-1. I know I did not expect them to start 4-1, but yet here we are. Both teams are 4-1, and they've both had big wins. I mean, you can say what you want about who the Colts have played and all those different things. They've only lost to the Rams. That is what it is. They've beaten the Dolphins. They've beaten the Titans. They've beaten whoever is put in front of them except for the Rams. It is what it is. And that was a close game and could have actually won the game there too. There was an interesting play that preceded Mercado's play, but we're not going to talk about that one because it's probably been talked about ad nauseum at this point. But definitely was, they're 4-1, they're doing their thing, and you got to give them applause for that, no matter if you think who they played against is great or not. And then you have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they're 4-1, and they're coming off a huge win versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, some people are going as far as say as they upset the Kansas City Chiefs. No, I can't say they upset the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I know the Kansas City Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl, have been kind of I guess, the face of the AFC in terms of representing in the Super Bowl for the last few years, and just their excellence. But no, you can't call that one an upset. No, not in my opinion. But anyway, they won the game on Monday Night Football for the world to see and advance to 4-1. So with these teams, which one do you think is better? Me personally, I think the Colts are better. But I'm going to kind of break it down and lay all the facts out for you, okay? All right. One loss that the Jaguars have is to the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, those Cincinnati Bengals. And it was the game that Joe Burrow got hurt. So they're going against Jake Browning for majority of that game and lost the game to the Cincinnati Bengals. On one hand, hey, you're able to rebound and get back on your feet and not let that lull hang over that like it usually would for the Jacksonville Jaguars. On the other hand, you lost to a Cincinnati Bengals team without Joe Burrow for majority of the game. That's not good. Now, the Colts on the other side, they lost to the Rams in LA. There you go. It's what it is. Rams aren't a terrible team. They're 3-2. So, they aren't a terrible team. They almost upset the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I'll call that one an upset. But they almost won in Philly. Of course, didn't quite finish it off. And Philly won, of course, blocked the kick as well. And Jordan Davis scampered all the way to the end zone. But, just looking at that, I would have to say the Colts just seem to be the better team. I'll throw in this as well. The Colts offense runs really, really smooth. I mean, if you take a look at it, it's, you're running the football here, you're throwing the football here, you got quick game, you got intermediate game, you have some trick plays that come off really, really smooth. As far as the Jaguars, they're definitely still trying to get their things together. The running game is 4th in the NFL. I'll say that. It was ranked 4th in the NFL going into the game versus the Chiefs. And I mean, it ain't like the Colts offensive running game is chopped liver because they have, I believe, one of the best backs, if not the best back in the NFL right now, in Jonathan Taylor. So their running game is definitely nothing to sneeze at, if you asking me. Now the difference here, I think, is the biggest difference. I think is quarterback play. Now, I will say, Trevor Lawrence, in the past, if things go wrong, he would, things would continue to go wrong and not able to recover as well as the Jacksonville team. But this year, things go wrong. Like, of course, the 4th down play tries to go over the top. Ball gets knocked out of his hands when he's trying to get over the top. And they lose the touchdown. The interception happens with some thought that was pass interference and some didn't. It's easy to kind of sulk and then down, of course, 14-0 early in the second quarter. All those things happened, but they were able to fight back from those things, which normally in the past, Jacksonville teams have struggled to come back from those type of blows. So you can say that, about Trevor as well in terms of coming back from things. But Daniel Jones, he has been impressive. I mean, looking at just the numbers here, he's got 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Those were all in the Rams game, by the way. He's got 100 QBR in 4 of the 5 games so far. Over 100. Daniel Jones, yes, that Daniel Jones, over 100. Then, of course, he's at 1,290 yards. Trevor Lawrence, 60.4% completion percentage, 6 TDs, 5 interceptions, and, just 1,005 yards. Not to say he's just playing god awful. He's not playing god awful. He's just playing peaks and valleys like we're used to seeing from him. Now, sure, he's had some drops from his receivers. They're one of the top teams in having drops. I understand that part as well. But, it's still the peaks and valleys, man. The peaks and valleys. You're not getting that with Daniel Jones. You're getting more level play, if not above level play, from him than you are getting from Trevor Lawrence. And then defensively, I'll go this. Both teams are very opportunistic, I should say. But Indy's got 8 turnovers with their new defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. And of course, they've given up a little bit more against good teams in terms of games. Like, for example, the Denver Broncos, they gave up a little bit more points against them. And of course, the Rams. Not to say their defenses are bad. Defense is bad with the Colts. It's just, hey, they're a little bit more susceptible sometimes to better teams. And then you've got the Jags, who have 14 turnovers, only had 9 all last year. So, Devin Lloyd's got a bunch of those, and he's been very magical this year. Yeah, I said he's been magical. But, definitely if you tell the tape, I'm going to go with the Colts right now. The Colts are the stronger team, in my opinion. The run game, the defense being solid. Just Daniel Jones playing like what the New York Giants thought they were getting when they drafted him as high as they did a few years back. And it's hard to look past that one loss that the Jaguars had to the Cincinnati Bengals. It's just very hard to look past that. But, that's why I'm sticking with the Colts as the best team in the division right now, even though both teams could potentially at this point, if the playoffs were to start today, both teams would be in the playoffs. Now, I know plenty would say that they didn't expect 2 teams from the AFC South in the playoffs. But right now, that would be the case. But, of course, we do have a long season. And speaking of that, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to talk about the Tennessee Titans when we come back in their need for speed. Wondering what I'm talking about? You'll find out. We'll be right back.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are 2 of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off of these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get this the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, and we are back on Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. And like I mentioned before the break, got to talk about the Tennessee Titans and their need for speed. Now, I know plenty are wondering what I'm talking about. Like earlier in the week, I talked about, or was it last week, talked about the Kansas City Chiefs and their need for speed wide receivers. They got guys running 4.2s out there. But with the Tennessee Titans, it's a little bit different. I'm not saying they got 4.2 guys out there running down the field like gazelles. No. What I'm saying is they sped up the offense in the fourth quarter. When you were watching that game, who are those that did watch the game against Arizona? The fourth quarter, it was mistakes Arizona made that allowed Tennessee back in the ball game, and plenty have harped on that and talked about that and just the total debacle that happened in the fourth quarter with Arizona. But what I want to focus on is the speed of the offense when it came to running offense with Cam Ward. Now, Cam Ward had 193 yards passing and 72% completion percentage in the fourth quarter alone. Yeah, he had more passing yards in the fourth quarter than he had any part of the game. So you could take those first 3 quarters combined, and basically he had more in the fourth quarter. One thing that I would say, it seemed like he was way more comfortable when the speed picked up. The offense, he was more decisive in his throws. The offense was kind of moving with a rhythm as well. It definitely looked like cleaner looks for him, and it looked like the offense seemed to be just in sync a lot more with his tight ends, with Gunnar Helm, Chig Okonkwo, with Calvin Ridley, Ellie Manor. You got Shamir DK. Then you have Tyler Lockett as well. Just seemed like everyone was in rhythm, getting it, understanding it. And the Titans coaches did pay attention to that because Brian Callahan talked about, this week. He said there's going to be more up tempo in the offense. And to be honest, I think that is an excellent move for this offense because now you kind of put Cam more in control of the offense than he already is. He already has a lot of input when it comes to this offense. For those who don't know, he studies tape and he makes suggestions in terms based on things he's seen. Him and the coaches collaborate when it comes to the game plan. Is what it basically comes across that way in terms of things that he sees and things that they see, and them being on the same page. With the speed picking up as well, it's going to do a couple different things. It's going to make defenses kind of declare themselves probably a little earlier than they wanted to, so that way he knows where the pressure's coming from, who's coming, who's not coming, things like that, because defenses are reacting to the speed with which the Titans would be running the offense. Secondly, what it's going to do is it's going to keep different sets out there on the field. Now, I know the Titans would probably like to swap, defensive personnel, offensive personnel, things like that. But if they have a certain offensive personnel on the field and have some defenders on the field that are tired or just the wrong set of personnel, why not take advantage of that by speeding it up, running a few different plays, kind of slowing it down, varying the different speeds, so that way it keeps the defense off balance. And lastly, when you do that as well, what it also does is it creates lanes as well, because people are going to be pursuing. You give them maybe one look on this play, and then the next play give them a different look, and then you come back to that same look that they just gave them on maybe a previous play. You may have guys fast flowing to that play, and it may open up something that was there maybe the first time or wasn't there the first time because of an over pursuit of a defense as well. So it's a lot of different things that running a little bit quicker up-tempo offense can do for the Tennessee Titans. And I do like this move for them as well. And, I want to throw this out there too. They are going against the Las Vegas Raiders as well. The Las Vegas Raiders are not necessarily the most intimidating defense. They do have a guy up there named Max Crosby. He is very intimidating, but overall as a whole, not a very intimidating defense. And just a few notes on this defense that the Titans are going against when they go to Las Vegas this Sunday. Just to give you a few notes, their pressure rate is near the bottom. This is from Next Gen Stats, by the way. Their pressure rate has been near the bottom of the league since week one. Now, week one, it was solid. But after that, it's kind of went just like this and shot down. So, definitely their pressure rate is not the same, which means potentially more time for Cam Ward to survey the defense. Now, I will say that is still Max Crosby coming off the edge, so not too much time, Cam Ward, but probably more time to dissect the defense and make things happen. Secondly, they have a very vulnerable secondary. Honestly, that they've not really fared very great back there, and with that being known, and with the pass rush kind of not being definitely dominant, that could be something the Titans could exploit. Now, do I expect the Titans just to go throwing the football all around the yard? No, because to be honest, their most consistent player so far throughout the season, to me, or one of their most consistent players has been Tony Pollard. And you got to feed that guy. You got to give him the football, allow him to exploit the defense and punish the defense with his running style, which he has been running very, very hard this year. Every time he has touched the football. So you allow him to kind of wear on the defense as well, because those 2-3 yard runs, if you wear on the defense, could become 4 or 5 yard runs. And those first downs just keep churning and churning and churning. And then you eventually take the will of a team. But, with the passing game, I will say those are two things to pay attention to. You got a pressure rate near the bottom for the Raiders and a very vulnerable secondary. And it's just going to be interesting just to see if the Tennessee Titans and Cam Ward offensively can take advantage of that defense, one, and two, carry the momentum that they built up in the fourth quarter. Because if they're able to continue to carry that momentum, say they found something, that would be good to see them kind of, I guess taking that next step forward in the evolution of that offense. And by the way, the offensive line I got to give kudos to them because as many people have maligned the offensive line for the Tennessee Titans for a majority of this season, but I have to give them props for the way that they handled themselves in the second half of that game. It wasn't like they were just out there just whiffing on people and things like that. They were communicating, giving Cam time. If rushers were trying to run by them or whatever, they were pushing them up the field. Cameron Ward could fold up under that and kind of get out to the side, do different things, route to the left and right, whatever. They actually were better in that second half. And I'm interested to see just how they continue to develop and evolve and get better as a unit with communication and doing the things that they are supposed to do. All right, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Houston Texans and their turnaround on touring the AFC South.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. And like I mentioned, we're going to finish up the show talking about the Texans turnaround. Yes, the Houston Texans started the season 0-3, and things did not look good. But now, back-to-back wins over the Titans and the Baltimore Ravens have them looking towards blue skies as opposed to all that rain that was coming down on that team that many picked to win the AFC South. Now, of course, they still have their work cut out for them. They still have to face the Colts twice. They still have to face the Jaguars one more time. So it isn't like they're out of the woods just yet, but signs are pointing to them being a little bit better than they were in the first 3 weeks of the season. Now I mentioned they started 0-3. They lost to the Rams, the Bucks, and the Jaguars. All three teams would either be playoff teams or close to being playoff teams that they lost to. Just for a little perspective. Now, they did win their last two versus the Titans and the Ravens, which have a combined record of 2-8. Not good. But of course, the teams they played had a combined record of the first three games, a record of 11-4. So just to give you a little bit of perspective in terms of how they've gotten where they've got. Now, the biggest thing is the defense. The defense is doing their thing for the majority of games. Just, the run, they are kind of giving up when it counts the most, which is not good. But that part of that is because they're on the field too doggone long. They were on the field too doggone long in the first three games. And eventually, even the best defenses will wear out and allow different things to happen, like for the Tampa Bays to run the football on them, like for the Jaguars to do different things against them as well. So, part of that is being tired and being on the field as long. But, of course, there's no excuses in the football game or the football world. You got to find a way to get that man down, as opposed to letting them run through your arms. It is what it is. But that's part of it. But I will say, a lot of people are questioning whether it's them, having wins versus bad team, or it's just them finding themselves. But I'm going to give you a little bit of information, a little bit of stats. Next Gen Stats actually pointed out that, CJ Stroud is one of the longest. He held the ball very, very long, probably one of the one of the quarterbacks that holds the ball the most in the league. I mean, it was over 3 seconds, and that's not good. Basically, it's almost a 4 in some instances. And, for an offensive line like they had last year and then like they had coming in this year, that's not good. They can't hold those blocks that long. So what it looks like in the last couple weeks is they've made a little bit of an adjustment. Just to give you an example, 2.46 seconds was the time that it took to get the ball out of the backfield. The ball for CJ Stroud to get out of his arm, his receivers, things like that. That was the time last week. Now, I know the Ravens aren't exactly the greatest defense this season. However, this does show a philosophical change in what they like to do in terms of the Houston Texans. Getting the ball out of CJ Stroud's hand. One, you have declared routes and things like that. So you know who you're going to go to, and you have offensive coordinator potentially scheming up a few things too. And the second thing is you make where your offensive line doesn't have to hold up forever up there. No offensive line can hold up forever. Not to say that this Houston Texans line is great, but just saying no offensive line can hold up forever. So some adjustments had to be made. I mean, and also, definitely looks like they trust more in the things that are being put out there in the last couple of weeks, especially when you look from the fourth quarter on versus the Tennessee Titans to what they did versus the Baltimore Ravens. It looked like they trusted a little bit more what they saw, and some things started to come to them as well. And, if they're able to do that, be in rhythm and continue to, find their way, there's no telling how better they can be as the season goes on. Now, I'm not saying this offensive line is great by any means. No, it's not. But you can always find ways to make them look better by, speeding up the offense, by quick game and different things like that. It will help them go forward. Now, they're on a bye this week. And, when they come out of it, you're definitely probably going to see a few other things that they may have been working on. But, of course, we have to wait our time for that one. Definitely something that Texans fans are loving to see is the Houston Texans turning it around just a little bit. But hey, this has been the show for this episode 63. I'm your host, Mike Patton. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Of course, if you would like to follow me, you can follow me on the artist formerly known as Twitter. I do not call it X because the only X that I recognize is DMX and Malcolm X. That is it. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton 82 at MikePatton 82, and also on Blue Sky, the same thing. Of course, you can find me on Instagram and Threads. That's THA, not THE, _general_MP. You can find Touring the AFC South on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it. We are there. And we're also on the Mike Patton Network on YouTube, where you can find this show. You can find This One Works. You can find Let's Talk HBCUs. Yes, 3 podcasts that I am a host or co-host of and the producer of as well. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Check out the playlist if you're interested in one specific podcast as well. And go ahead and comment, share, subscribe, all those different things. Just thank you all for tuning into this episode. There will not be shows next week. It's an announcement. There will not be shows next week because this host is going on a vacation. So just wanted to give you all a heads up there to not expect shows next week because I will be on vacation. Thank you all again for tuning in to this episode 363 of Touring the AFC South. We're out. Peace.